She's not linear.
Teen Tix is, as Jenny said, an arts access and engagement program for teenagers. It exists under the auspices of Seattle Center Productions, which is the public programming arm of Seattle Center. So those are the people who produce all the free and low-cost programming and cultural programs and that sort of thing at Seattle Center. What I do is quite different from that, but I exist in that world. What Teen Tix does is we partner with arts organizations. And those organizations, we work with those organizations to develop different kinds of engagement strategies focused exclusively on 13 to 19-year-olds. The most well-known of those, and for good reason, it's what we spend most of our time on, is our $5 day of show ticket program. And how that works is any teenager who's 13 to 19 years old can sign up for a Teen Tix Pass. It's free. And then on the day of show, or at our museum partners anytime they want, they can show up at the ticket office and buy a $5 ticket, if there's one available. And that's it. So that's sort of the kernel, the nugget of how Teen Tix works. That's how we identify who those teens are, who might be interested, who are arts curious, and bring them into our little world and then try to sort of nurture them into a community and have them see that they're not alone and that there are other kids like them who are excited about what we're excited about. So that's how Teen Tix works. And I was just thinking when you were talking that we sort of, I think there's a tendency right now to think about these engagement programs as either parallel or pipeline, right? So, and I didn't coin that phrase, but you know, it's either, okay, they're going to come in, they're going to have this first experience, which we talk about a lot in Teen Tix also, you know, how can we incite that first use, it's all about first use. And then that will lead to, you know, them attending on a regular basis, and then that will lead to them engaging with that organization's young adult programs, which will then lead to them, you know, becoming subscribers, which will lead to them becoming board members, which will lead to them, you know, etc. Or we're going to create this parallel programming that's alongside the regular programming that's just for these new audiences, that just addresses their needs, and then we don't have to scare our old audiences, you know, by making them participate in this. And I think what you're saying, that it's not like that people want to go back and forth. And I think oftentimes, you know, more established audiences will express to us, like, oh, we love having the teenagers here, and we want to do that. We want to go, you know, like, have that party that you're throwing for them. And we want to, you know, we like this new programming. And that's interesting to us, too. And don't treat us like, you know, we're stodgy and that could never possibly be of interest to us. So I do think that there's so much overlap, and people do want to sort of go back and forth. And so we need to identify a third model other than pipeline or parallel. What's that?
The cost changing your practice.
Right. So Crush of the Month and Teen Press Corps was something that we were going to talk about. Yeah, okay, so we have a blog. Teen Tix, one of the challenges about Teen Tix is that it doesn't actually exist anywhere. It's just out there in the ether, it's happening all the time at our 38 participating organizations. You know, at this moment there are teenagers signing up for Teen Tix and figuring out what they're going to see and going and using it. And so, but we don't, there's no place, you don't go there, it's not a club, house, you know, it's not a class, it's not an education program, it's an audience development program. And so we try to create these sort of online forums where these teenagers can start to sort of define what their community is. And one of the places that we do that is on our blog. And most of the content on our blog is written by our Teen Press Corps, which is a fluctuating group of anywhere from 60 to 80 teens who we send out to our participating organizations, and they write reviews. And they also interview artists, sometimes they write feature stories. And it all gets posted on the blog, and it becomes a place for teenagers to go and see what their peers are saying about the work and sort of participate in a conversation with their peers. And get, you know, in a very, if you think about reviews as consumer reports, which is one way to think about them, to get peer, you know, feedback about things so that they feel like somebody who shares their point of view to some extent is recommending or not this particular thing. And, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. Crush of the month, thank you.
This is my favorite feature.
So Crush of the month is my way of trying to create teen heartthrobs out of young local artists. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We use Crush of the Month once a month to profile a young local artist who is doing something interesting, and to have teenagers see that the people who are creating the art that we're trying to get them to engage with are really not that different from them, that they may just be, 10 years ahead of them, sort of generationally, that it's not all like abstract, sort of old people making stuff. Not that, I don't mean to imply that teenagers never want to see anything that's created by an old person, because that is certainly false. And I'm also using old in a, sorry.
You mean rarefied.
I'm speaking sort of the way that teenagers sometimes talk about things. So we send one of our teen reporters out. They interview these artists. We make videos out of it. And that's our Crush of the Month, and we celebrate them for a month, and then we move on to the next person, and we draw from our entire, whole diverse range of art forms, which Teen Tix now includes. We used to be really theater heavy, and we still are fairly theater heavy, but we now, we have visual art, we have the Rep, Sale Art Museum, and Act Theater, by the way, are all Teen Tix participating organizations.
Yeah, we were Crush of the Month recipients, and that was great.
Actually, you guys were the first Crush of the Month.
Yeah.
Justin
Justin he was perfect. He's dreamy.
So dreamy.
Yeah.
So dreamy. But all that stuff, sort of gets passed through our press corps and also our governing body, which is our teen steering committee, and we make sure when I come up with an idea like Crush of the Month that it's not completely lame. So I talk to them about it, and I say, is this something that you would actually be interested in, and how can we do it in a way that's going to feel authentic for you? And then they tell me, and then that's what we do. So, oh, I want to say one more thing before we move on. Sorry. When I said that my husband is a woodworker and nonprofits genius, I think a lot of people thought I was kidding, and I wasn't. He actually is. You should go and read, you should Google an article called Utopia Aflame if you're interested in nonprofit reform. He wrote that for The Stranger about 5 years ago in the wake of some events that happened at a large art children's organization that he used to run called Consolidated Works. I recommend reading it. Utopia Aflame. Yeah. Matthew Richter. Right. Thank you. Matthew Richter is his name. It's very mysterious.
He's always in the room.